Okay, so if you hear about this Tulu 3 things, this new large language model, and it's from the Allen Institute for AI, Angel, well, they're called AI2 for short. And it's making some serious waves in the AI world. You know how like cutting edge AI has always been this kind of like secretive thing. Companies keep their algorithms and all their data like super secret, under lock and key. But AI too. They're like totally different. They're all about transparency. Like they just went and completely open sourced Tulu 3, which means they're just giving it all away. The code, all the data they use to train it, even all their training methods, it's all out there. They're throwing open the doors to their whole AI lab and saying, hey, everybody, come on in. Learn whatever you want. Collaborate with us. Pretty wild. But here's the thing that's really interesting. It's not just some like idealistic experiment in open source. Tulu 3 is a serious contender. It's got 405 billion parameters, which basically means it has a ton of processing power. And early tests are showing that it's not just keeping up with those big closed models. You know, the ones from companies like OpenAI and DeepSeek. It's actually doing better than them in some areas, especially when it comes to safety. And that might make you wonder, how could an open source model actually be safer than the ones made by these big companies with all their money and experts? Well, it turns out it's all because of this new training method that Tulu 3 uses. It's called RLVR. Stands for Reinforcement Learning from Verifiable Rewards. So instead of the old way of training, where they basically just feed a ton of data to an AI and hope for the best, RLVR uses these specific measurable tasks to make sure the model is actually learning the right stuff. It's kind of like if you were teaching someone to play chess. You could just let them play a bunch of random games and learn from their mistakes, but they're going to learn a lot faster if you give them specific things to work on, like somewhere. Try to solve this puzzle and try to beat this really tough opponent. That way the feedback is super clear, the goals are measurable, and the progress comes a lot quicker. And that's exactly what ROVR does for Tulu 3. It gives it very clear goals, and the model learns by reaching those goals. And this whole approach, it makes Tulu 3 not only really capable, but also super safe. Think about it. If an AI is constantly getting rewarded for producing stuff that's accurate and harmless, it's much less likely to suddenly go off the rails and generate something dangerous or offensive. It's like building guards right into how it makes decisions. And it's clearly working because Tulu 3 with RLVR, it's already beating out some of the biggest names in the game in these safety benchmarks. It's a pretty big win for the open source AI community, and it really shows just how powerful transparency and collaboration can be. But there's more to the story. AI2's commitment to open source, it goes way beyond just sharing the code. They're giving away the data they use to train Tulu 3 too, and they've created this really detailed documentation all about their training methods. I mean, this is a level of openness we just don't see very often in the AI world. And what it does is it allows researchers to fully understand how this model works. They can identify potential biases and build upon it in a way that just wouldn't be possible with a closed system. For example, think about DeepSeek. They decided to release their model code, but they didn't share any of the training data, which makes it really hard to understand what their model is really doing or to figure out if there are any hidden biases in there. But AI2, they're like laying all their cards on the table. It's like they're saying, here's everything we got, take it, study it, make it better. Let's all work together to make AI the best it can be. And this kind of radical transparency, it has the potential to completely change how we develop and use AI. It could lead to a much more collaborative and less competitive environment, where researchers and developers from all over the world can work together to create AI systems that are more powerful and more reliable, and ultimately more beneficial to society as a whole. And it's not just about the researchers and developers. AI2 has also made it super easy for anyone to try out Tulu 3. They have this really user-friendly playground where you can just mess around with the model, see what it can do. Plus, they have tons of documentation and tutorials to help developers start using it and customizing it for their own projects. It's like they've removed all the barriers to entry and said, here you go. Here's the most advanced AI in the world. Have fun. And this level of accessibility, it's really important because it means that anyone can use this powerful AI technology. Small startups, nonprofits, individual researchers, they all have access to the same cutting-edge tools that used to be exclusive to these giant corporations. And who knows, maybe this will lead to some amazing innovations that we can't even imagine yet. Of course, there are always challenges when you're dealing with something as powerful as AI, especially when you make it open source. Security is a big one, because if you make your code and data public, there's always a risk that someone with bad intentions will try to find weaknesses and exploit them. But here's the thing about the open source community. It's strong. When you have thousands of people looking at the code, any potential problems are probably going to be found and fixed pretty quickly. It becomes a collective effort to make the technology as safe and secure as possible. So yeah, there are challenges, but the potential benefits of open source AI, they're just too big to ignore. And with Tulu 3, we're seeing those benefits become a reality in a really amazing way. Where do we go from here? What does this mean for the future AI? Well, for years, this field's been dominated by these huge tech companies with tons of resources and a culture of secrecy. But Tulu 3 has shown us that there's a different way. Open source AI is not some fringe movement anymore. It's a powerful force that's changing everything and expanding the limits of what we can do with AI. And AI, too, is right at the forefront of this movement. Their dedication to transparency and accessibility is inspiring others to do the same. We're seeing more and more open source AI projects popping up all the time, and that trend is only going to continue. And this is a really exciting thing, because when more people have access to this technology, we can do more good with it. We can use it to tackle some of the biggest challenges facing humanity, from climate change and poverty to healthcare and education. But we can only do that if we work together. And open source AI gives us the power to do just that. It breaks down the walls between researchers, developers, and users, and it creates this global community of innovators, all working towards a common goal. It reminds me of the early days of the internet, when that spirit of open collaboration led to some of the most important technologies we have today. And I think we're on the verge of something similar with AI. And Tulu 3 is just the beginning. It's a really powerful example of what open source can achieve, and it has the potential to completely change the future of AI in some truly profound ways. To see what happens next. And the thing is that AI, too, isn't just talking the talk when it comes to open source weighing. They're really putting their money where their mouth is. I mean, think about it. They're not just releasing the code for Tulu 3. They're also sharing all the data they use to train it. And on top of that, they've created this incredibly detailed documentation about every single step of their training methods. It's like they're giving you the entire recipe for how they baked this incredible AI and this level of transparency. I mean, it's practically unheard of in the world of AI. Open source AI enables collaboration. It breaks down those walls between researchers, developers, and everyday users, and creates this global community of innovators, all striving for the same goal, to make AI better and use it for good. Kind of reminds me of the early days of the internet, back when everyone was excited about sharing ideas and working together. And that spirit of open collaboration led to some of the most groundbreaking innovations of our time, and I think we're on the cusp of a similar revolution with AI. In Tulu 3, it's a sign of what's to come. It's proof that open source AI can be just as powerful, if not more so, than anything coming out of those big closed labs. And it has the potential to change the future of AI in ways we can only dream of. So that's Tulu 3, the open source AI that's making everyone sit up and take notice. And I'm really excited to see what the future holds. Thanks for tuning in.